Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance today. My name is Marcus. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Johan. We are both senior sales engineers working for Ivanti, secure access product range, so formerly known as Pulse. It's network security. We cover a range of different products. So we've got a NAC solution, network access control. We're well known for our enterprise VPN solution, so virtual private network. And we also do a product called VADC, so Virtual Application Delivery Controller, which involves web application firewalls and traffic manager. But today we are specifically talking to you today about virtual private networks and ZTA. So ZTA is kind of like a new acronym that's come about. So it stands for Zero Trust Access. So just to try and get an understanding of why we need this in our lives these days, I'm going to try and paint a bit of a picture and give you reasons for why we need this product in our life. So Gartner put out coined a phrase, should we say, what is ZTNA? So essentially, ZTNA is zero trust network access is a product or a service that creates an identity and context-based logical access boundary around an application or a set of applications. The applications are hidden from discovery, and access is restricted via a trusted broker to a set of named entities. The broker verifies the identity, context, and policy adherence of the specified participants before allowing access and prohibits lateral movement elsewhere on the network. This removes application asset from public visibility and significantly reduces the surface area for attack. So there's a few key terms we need to look at here. So we're looking at the identity, which is something we've always done when we're allowing access to a remote solution. So when we're looking at VPN solutions, we're always asking for the username and the password. Not all the time we look at the context base. So what's the context behind the user? What do they need access to? Why do they need access to it? With the ZTA framework, essentially what we're going to do is hide them from discovery. So we're hiding the applications from visibility. If you can't see the application, you can't attack it. And we're also looking at the policy adherence, so the policy for the user, what they need access to, the policy for the device as well. So part of the zero trust access is CARTA, so continual assessment and risk trust. I can't remember the acronym at the moment, but we're constantly checking the device for compliance. So have they got the latest patches on? Is their antivirus up to date? One of the key differentiators with our solution is we have a best of breed host checker, so we can go really granular into the device itself. One of the customers I spoke to put 5 different registry entries in their devices, so they check those registry entries. If those registry entries are there, they're allowed in the system. So ZTNA essentially isn't a product as such; it's a framework to work towards to be able to allow the right access for the right people at the right time. So next, we kind of need to look at the steps we need to take to get this zero trust access framework set up in your environment. And these are kind of the basic things we need to do. So we're authenticating the user themselves, which is something we've always done. When they try and get into a VPN solution, we need your username, we need your password. Obviously, in modern times, we've had things like 2FA and MFA, 2FA being two-factor authentication, MFA being multi-factor authentication. With this technology, you're creating something you know and something you have to gain entry to the system. So again, authenticating the user. Next, we need to have a look at enrolling the device. So what a lot of organizations do, and a lot of applications on your phone, for example, you need to enroll your device to the system so we know it's a trusted device. We know that device is allowed. I know last time I changed my phone, for example, I think I had to register my phone with about 20 different apps. So there's the phone app, it's WhatsApp, Amazon, for example, even Facebook. You always create a trusted device, because if there's a trusted device, you know to allow it on the system. If it's not a trusted device, you can block access to that device itself. Next, we need to secure the network and the data. And this is something we've always done with a VPN solution. You've always had an entry point to your resources. You want to challenge the user. Who are they? What's the password? What's your MFA? So we've always secured that in the past. It's something we don't really do these days. Connect an app based on authorization. So going back to the lateral movement statement within the Gartner comment, when someone goes into a VPN solution, you get that lateral movement. With the ZTA framework, essentially what you're going to be doing is only giving them access to what they need access to. So Marcus Howell, I'm an SE, I need access to Salesforce, Office 365, but I don't need access to SAP or any other like an HR resource, for example. So why give me access to that? Again, with the VPN solution, potentially you could get access to that through the back doors because you've got the lateral movement. Another thing, continuing monitor device data network and security. Again, that's something we've always done. Our VPN solution essentially is a zero trust solution. We can give access control levels with it once they actually get into the system. And we're always constantly checking the device for compliance with our best of breed host checker. And once you've got that information, you can detect and remediate threats. So you can potentially block access if it's if say the user behavior is wrong or something like that, or if the device isn't trusted, you can potentially remediate that in that way. So just reining it back a bit, why do we need ZTA in our world? So to kind of understand, I kind of want to paint a picture of where we were and where we are now. So essentially, historically, we've got the user at home or in a Starbucks or a McDonald's needing access to the resources to do their job, essentially. So normally they were, historically, so I'm not the youngest person in the world, but 20 years ago, it was just an office block. You have all your resources in the office. To gain access to that office, you need a VPN solution. So you're creating a layer 3 tunnel from the client itself direct to the VPN server, thus giving access internally. But this is where the lateral movement quite often occurs. So once you've gained access to the system, you've kind of got access to all areas. Again, I'll go back to our VPN solution. You can limit that access. So we have been kind of a ZTA solution for a long time, but a lot of solutions don't give you that granular access to specific resources. But what's changed in the world? Essentially, SaaS platforms, digital transformation, modernization, cloud gems, there's many different terms for it. I mean, cybersecurity is a minefield when it comes to acronyms and terms, and there's always new ones popping up. But essentially, what's actually happening here is people used to have access to one location where all your devices were, but there's a lot of cost involved in implementing a solution within an environment. So let's take Exchange Server, for example. I used to be, prior to being an SE, I was in 20 years of various support roles. One of my last jobs as a support engineer, I used to be in charge of a lot of servers, including 3 different Exchange servers. Now, it was an international organization. I was in the UK. I looked after 3 servers, but globally we had 36 servers. Now, you think about the cost of buying 36 servers. So let's take the 3 servers that I had, for example. So £5,000 a server, then you've got to buy the software on top of that. I'm not sure about the price of Microsoft licensing, but you had to buy the Windows software to run on there. Then you had to buy the Exchange server, but it doesn't just stop there. You've also got to rack that device. You've got to power that device. So there's the cost of powering it. Then obviously it's in a server room, so you've got to think about cooling the device. So you've got to think about the cost of cooling. And then finally, you've got to connect that device to everything. So you're going to need to plug that into a core switch. That's going to need to go down to a network switch. So you've got to buy a load of switches. So the implementation costs to put a resource in your environment can, quite frankly, get astronomical. So the great thing about the SaaS platforms is that they take that burden away from you. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking this from your on-premise, from your office, should we say, and putting it into the cloud. So that's a great thing. It's saving you a lot of cash in the implementation of a single resource. And obviously, we're going to start pushing a lot of other things up to the cloud. Anything that's compatible with a cloud platform, we can place in the cloud, not a problem. The problem with this is essentially what you're doing is, whereas you had one single silo of information, which is your office, you've now got multiple silos of information. And we're not really protecting those. essentially what we're doing is pushing our valuable information, the company information, up to the cloud, and it's susceptible to being stolen when it's just passing through the internet. Another thing is, because we haven't got this entry point, this VPN server, where we're checking the credentials of the user, checking the compliance of the device, and creating this encrypted tunnel, we don't have that in the modern world. So in my last role as a support engineer, I actually did an Office 365 migration, and it's quite scary how much information someone can get to if they get a spoof email, for example. So I think it was 3 days after migrating. I think I did 305 mailboxes in total. 5 days after, it was 3 days after migrating, I was sitting at my desk, and the financial controller beelined over to me, and I was very concerned because the look on her face was quite scary. But essentially, she came up to me and said, "Marcus, I've just had an email from the managing director asking for £33,000 to be transferred to an account I've never heard of before." First thing I thought of was, okay, he's obviously put his username and password into a dodgy website, because the wording on the email wasn't the normal words that he used, so it's very apparent that it wasn't him who sent the email. So I phoned him up and said, "Hi, Mr. Managing Director, have you been asked for your username and password for Office 365? He said, "Yes, I have. I put it into a website." I was like, "Oh, okay, I've changed your password. I need to have a conversation when you come in." So we were in a situation where we weren't protecting the email. So we're just on a cloud-based platform. Username and password was phished, and they gained access to the information. The worrying thing is, it could have been so much worse. So one thing I like to do is synchronize their documents, downloads, and desktop to OneDrive. So essentially, when they got into the system, they not only had access to 30 years of emails, they had access to 30 years of financial and personal information of the managing director itself. Now, what could have happened is, I mean, he could have done a lot more damage, but what could have been even worse is they could have planted a bit of malware or ransomware. It could have fished around the system. It's being synchronized to the laptop. When he goes into the office, it's starting to penetrate the network. It could have been a very risky situation, and we could have been held to ransom for that simple little mistake. There are ways of, we say preventing access with MFA, but realistically, MFA isn't a way of stopping the cyber criminals from getting in your environment. It might slow them down by 5 or 10 seconds, but if you can spoof a page to get someone's username and password, you can spoof a page to prompt shortly afterwards, once they put their username and password in, for their MFA offering. So that way they can gain access. So we are in the situation where we've got all these different silos of information. We're not protecting them with the way we used to protect them, with the encrypted tunnel. They're just floating through the internet, and there's no real mechanism to stop people accessing the system. So how can ZTNA help? So essentially, we've got this situation where we've got multiple silos of information, and they've obviously got a lot of PII in there. We've got to think about GDPR. We don't want people getting access to it. How can we protect those? So within Ivanti, obviously it used to be Pulse. With the acquisition of Ivanti, they've invested a lot of money in this product itself, and they're still invested in engineering this product superbly, should I say. But essentially what we can do is protect those environments with what we call a dark gateway. It's a simple little virtual device. Once you buy the product, they're free, they're scalable, you can have as many as you want to. But essentially, we're going to create conditional access to only allow access through this gateway. But how do we get access to that gateway? Essentially, with the client on the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the layer 3 tunnel, and we're protecting the internal resource that we can't push to the cloud. We're protecting it with a VPN server, so we're checking the compliance before they go in. With this one, we can create multiple MPLS tunnels direct from the client to the gateway, thus giving access to the application itself. So we're creating the original tunnel simultaneously as the time we're creating the MPLS tunnels to encrypt and protect your information as and when you need it. So we're just giving access to the applications you need access to. So that's kind of the context as to why I personally believe we need ZTA in our environment. So what I'm going to do is now hand you over to Johan, who's going to explain a bit more about our environment. Thank you very much.
Hi. Let me see. So now I want to talk to you about how we can implement these new technologies from where we are. Um, a lot of companies do have VPN, which can be from a very simplistic approach of just giving a username, password, and then you get access and get a full tunnel to your network, up to a solution that we have provided as Pulse Secure. Um, as you might know, in our VPN solution, we do have uh, okay. We do have already the I see that my slide is not moving. Okay, so
I can forward them if you want. Yeah.
What?
I can forward this progressive slides if you want.
Yeah. Okay. It's there. So as our VPN solution is just not a simple one. We do really verify the user. So and any company today should use multi-factor authentication. It's a minimum that you have to do. There are several ways of automating it, and it makes it much more secure to know that it's not a breach of username password, but they need to have something in addition to it. Secondly, before we give them access, we also going to verify the device. We want to know which device they are using, and we can do checks of checking to see if um, uh, the Windows is up to date, if there is the antivirus is installed and data signature. We can check for certificates. So there is a lot of things we can check on the device to make sure that the user that wants to log on is doing that on a device that is acceptable for the company. Once we having verified that, then we grant them access according to the policy. So it is not a full access. We define which applications they can connect to via the VPN tunnel. So it is really a restricted access that you will get on a certain device with a certain account. Once it all has been authorized and authenticated, then we set up the tunnel so that they can get access to their applications. Not only do we have an on-demand VPN, there is also a way to have an always-on VPN that, for example, the device is automatically authenticated with the machine certificate via the gateway, but it only has access to the domain controller to log in to the company domain. Once they do that and they have the username, password, and their multi-factor authentication, they will get access via their user tunnel. Once they log out, they fall back again to the machine tunnel. So there's a lot of flexibility in how we can set this solution, and it's all using the concept of zero trust. We don't trust the device, we don't trust the user, we don't trust that he will do the right thing. So we're going to define exactly what it can do. So very similar to what the zero trust network access is. So that philosophy existed already quite some time. So just to give you an idea of things we integrate to make it more secure, is that for the VPN solution, we can also connect to the device management system, being Intune or our own system for Mobile Iron. We can check to see if that device is first of all enrolled, but also if it's compliant to the rules that we set out in the MDM. If they are not compliant, they will not get access, or we can limit the resources they can get to. So we can take advantage of the work being done by the MDM solution to integrate that into a network access via the VPN. Now, our VPN solution has always been pretty much on-prem, and that will stay. But from the management point of view, we have added a cloud instance in Europe that allows you to maintain and configure the gateways. On top of the configuration, you will get additional visibility, like you see here, on what applications are being used through the system. And you can check on what user profiles, which gateways, which applications, which device control it has passed, so that you really get a good idea of what are people using via the VPN. An additional benefit, it comes directly now, is that if we know which applications are currently being used through the VPN gateway, it is easy for us via this management interface to create a policy for our zero trust network access solution. And this is what you see here is in the our architecture is that it complies to what the zero trust network access defines, because it's a definition that you have to enroll the device, that you have a cloud management where you put in the policy, and that you have gateways on different locations which are basically dark. And what I mean with dark is that you do not have to have a DNS entry. Like with the VPN, you always go to, for example, VPN. Your company name .be or .co.uk or whatever country you're in. So in a VPN, you go to connect to a name. In a zero trust network access, you get the information of the IP address via the cloud management. What you also will see is that because you have to enroll these devices, you do not have a clientless solution, which you do have with the VPN, where you could use the VPN appliance to grant access via the SSL VPN, basically a website where we can still do the multi-factor authentication, where we can still do the device checking, but the client doesn't need to have an agent on his device. You can understand as a partner that you will not allow every company you're working with to install an agent on your device. It would be unworkable. So having that VPN solution to provide you access to a very limited set within the corporate environment you're supporting is only be able by a VPN solution. Now, the setup of ZTNA, you also have some choices of how you transfer the data. What we have chosen for is, like we do for the VPN, it is a direct connection from the device to the appliance. So the data does not go through the cloud. And we see that is very important for financial organizations, for government organizations, for healthcare organizations, basically any company that is concerned by security breaches. So these companies, they want that the data stays with them, so they go from the device through a encrypted tunnel to the different gateways located at sites where they host the application for the company. The advantage of a ZTNA is that you have multiple tunnels. This is not being possible with the VPN solution because you only have one tunnel. If you want to go to another site, you have to break the tunnel and set up a new tunnel. So they have different functionalities, but providing also some similarities. One of the things we have been doing on the ZTNA to increase the security posture is to make an integration with a product we have in the vulnerability management space, where we provide a risk rating for the different vulnerabilities that exist. So this risk rating is based on, it starts from a CVSS scoring system, but we are adding context in a way that is there an exploit available? Can this vulnerability be exploited? If it cannot be exploited, then the risk is not that high. Is this exploitation using remote code execution or privileged escalation that is more serious than something else? Is it connected to ransomware? So that's why our risk rating is an actual rating. A CVS scoring is static. Our risk can change every day. And we have less critical ones than you will have in the CVS scoring, but some medium risk ratings we might increase because they're linked to ransomware. So if you can stop that exploitation of let's say, a vulnerability that's not having a nice CVS scoring, you also block the ransomware. So you understand the benefit of having that risk rating in doing patch management. What we are using here is that because we have an agent on the device, we get a software list, and that software list will have certain vulnerabilities. We will check the VRR rating, and then you could have in the policy where you grant access to applications, you could use that rating. For example, if there is a critical vulnerability on that device, you could stop certain tunnels, or you can avoid that they create new ones. So that they first have to fix the vulnerability they're having before they get access to the banking applications, for example, that you use for your company, just to protect that, to be sure that the money is going the right way. So that's an integration we have done for the Zero Trust Network Access, because we have that, we always have that cloud connectivity. And that enhances the way that you provide access to the different applications in a very granular way. Now, the thing is that you do not have to choose between VPN and Zero Trust Network Access. Our agent, the agent we use today for VPN, is also able to create tunnels for Zero Trust Network Access. You need to add the policies in the cloud. It needs to be enrolled. It's agent-based. But at that point, you can create tunnels which go to your own data center, but also you can have tunnels to applications that are on remote sites. Could also be of course, your own data center, but typically we see it's being used for applications being hosted in Azure, in AWS, in the Google Cloud. So this allows you to have multiple tunnels active at the same time, and for the customer, it just uses the applications he normally uses, but they are protected automatically. And that's the benefit of our solution, is that you not have to choose between, am I staying with the VPN solution or am I going to the Zero Trust? No, you can combine them, and you can migrate at your own pace. So if everything working fine for the VPN, you're just starting to create more ZTNA tunnels, and you take certain applications via a different tunnel. So that is where we can help you to do an easy migration of a current VPN solution to a hybrid solution. And in some cases, it might be a full ZTNA solution. In our view today and for the years to come, I think most companies will need a hybrid solution. Also, don't forget that with our solution, data is going from the client to the appliance directly. Some other competing ZTNAs are sending all the data through a cloud. Although it might be based in Europe, it still goes to the cloud and can provide you some issues with server originated or application originated connections. So if the server on the other side wants to connect you, it will not be possible if you go through the cloud. So that's also something to consider. So there is some, let's say, consulting to be done on how you can migrate. And that is what our solution offers, is that, first of all, if you have our VPN solution, it's the same agent, it's easy. You do not have to deploy new things to How should it? Oh, why? I'm sorry. I'm not sure why, but all the animations are not on it. Second thing is because this solution is being designed on named users, the appliances you need both for VPN and Zero Trust Network Access are included in the pricing, where the VPN is basically have a license based on concurrent users, the users that are using it simultaneously. Zero Trust Network Access is based on named users. So, but you can deploy 100 or 10,000 different appliances depending on the number of applications you want, the number of granularity you want. So it's all in the license. So it's all the virtual appliances you can choose as you like. And with the News for Secure Access, you have one place to go where you can configure both the VPN solution and the access you want to grant via the VPN, but also all the policies of the ZTNA solution. So in general, what we can do for you is that if you go to Zero Trust, it's important that you do not allow access to your resources when they're not verified, and you don't give just access because somebody has a username and a password. You should take it a lot further. It's a concept, Zero Trust, it's not a product. Zero Trust Network Access is a product, but the Zero Trust concept, you can use that in all of your let's say, services you have. It can be in account management, it can be in network security, it can be in basically every solution you're offering in your company. You can look for Zero Trust that you narrow the possibility of being hacked. It's not always easy to go there, and that's where we can help you in the migration of what you're having today to a more flexible solution that is focused on what you need and not on a technology that would limit you what you can do. So the combination of both a VPN and a Zero Trust Network Access, where you are always the owner of the data is not going anywhere. That's the solution we can offer you in a flexible way of having VPN tunnels and Zero Trust tunnels all integrated. And that's what we wanted to talk to you or discuss with you today in this seminar. If you would have any questions, you could put them in the Q&A and we can handle them. Marcus, is there anything you wanted to add to close our piece of the presentation?
No, I think you've nicely summed it up. Thank you very much, Johan.
Any questions we can answer from the attendees?
I'm not sure there's any in the chat, but I think Seth might be sending out our email addresses. So if anyone does have any questions or wants to see a demo or anything, feel free to contact us. That'd be great.
So I think with this we can close the meeting and the webinar. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us afterwards, and we can see where we can help you in these or other Ivanti products. Thank you very much for joining, and have a nice day.